woke up and your car wouldn't start? Frustrating, right? Or you get hit with an unexpected major expense. You can feel the anxiety and tension start to build immediately because you don't know how you're going to pay for it. We get it, and we're in the right place. So hey, welcome to Crosspoint. My name is Vince, and we're super excited you're tuning in with us today as we continue the series Whitespace. And today we want to help you find some white space and breathing room in your finances. So stick around and we'll be sure to talk about it. But first, we want you to know that we know that you have a lot of options when it comes to church. So we are thrilled that you've chosen to join us here at Crosspoint. And if this is your first time with us, we certainly hope it's the first of many. And we'd love to connect with you. Now, the best way to do that is simply scan the QR code on the screen or fill out the form next to the stream and take a moment to tell us about yourself. And we'll drop a gift in the mail to you this week, simply as a way of saying thank you for joining us today. Now, whether you're newer around here or you've been around for a while, as we begin 2023, if you're looking for some way new to connect, a new trajectory, a new purpose, we're here to help. So I want to tell you about a couple of ways to connect here at Crosspoint. Number one, game day is almost here. And if you've never experienced the Super Bowl weekend here at Crosspoint, take a look. Coming, people, February 9th and 12th in all our weekend services, America's favorite holiday, the Super Bowl, paired with church that turns into an irreverent teaching competition, a halftime show featuring songs this year by Rihanna, tailgating in the parking lot. Yes, you heard that right. So invite your rowdy friends to come early and tailgate in the parking lot or to join you in your living room and join us online. Either way, it's going to be fantastic. Number two, of the things we work really hard to do here is offer a variety of ways for people like you to be a part of what happens here at Crosspoint. So, as we start 2023, if you're interested in learning more and serving bigger, check out the volunteer tab at crosspointweb.org or scan this QR code and explore the many ways to get involved, to serve, and to grow your life to new places. And to know that in doing so, you're part of the changing of the trajectory of lives and families for eternity. That's pretty cool. All right, parents, we've got baby child dedications coming on January 26th and 29th in all weekend services. If you'd like to participate or just find out more about baby child dedications, just let us know on your connection card or scan the QR code, and we'll be in touch with you. All right, we've got a great service today. Did you know there's a difference between your standard of living and your quality of life? We're going to dig into this today. To get us headed in that direction, let's take a look at this great scene from the movie Crazy Rich Asians.
One, two, three, the best things in life are free, but you can give them to the birds and bees. I need money. That's what I want. That's what I want. That's what I want. Your love gives me such a thrill, but your love don't pay my bills. I need money. That's what I want. That's what I want. That's what I want. Money don't get everything, it's true, but what it don't get, I can't use. I need money. That's what I want. That's what I want. That's what I want. Give me money.
Let's give it up for this band. Come on. That's what I want. You know, that's what we want, right? We want some money. That's what we want. Well, we're going to dig into this weekend and kind of unpack what that looks like for our lives. And so, man, super excited to have you here. So good to see you guys today. And my name's Curt. If we haven't had a chance to meet, man, great to meet you today. And let's make some noise for our online crowd. Those tuning in the online spaces, man, we are so excited you're joining us this weekend. And whether you're first time with us online or here in the room, in the seats, man, we hope it's your first of many times. Now, we're in part 3 of a series where we're talking about something I think, again, is relevant every single week. It's like, this is like relevant to me. I'm talking to some of you and you're like, man, we're walking this out every week, which is so cool to hear. And we're talking about how do we create, you know, like breathing room, space, white space in our lives. And today we're going to look at what that means financially. Like, how do we create financial white space? And, you know, this is not a giving weekend. As, you know, Vince said something, you're like, oh my gosh, you know, let the sphincters down. Like, you know, we're going to talk about how this benefits you. Like, how can you live with more, you know, peace in your life? And so to begin our discussion today, I want to kind of tell you something most people messaging isn't telling you. And you're going to see this. You're going to go, oh, absolutely, Curt, this is absolutely 100% true. It's just that we're told the opposite in almost every aspect of our lives, and that's this, that there is a big difference between your standard of living and your quality of life. All right, there's a big difference between your standard of living and your quality of life. And, you know, every single day, advertisers and marketing, and listen, I'm all for advertising executives and marketing. And, you know, if you're in marketing or you're, you know, studying marketing, I hope you're successful and make a lot of money. It's great. It's just that every single day, you and I are told that these two things are the same. That if I raise my standard of living and I, you know, drive something better and have better clothes and look better and vacation better and have a better, you know, phone device, that at the end of the day, my standard of living is going to lead to a better quality of life. And that's just not necessarily true. In fact, some of us, you know, you're actually, you know, not enjoying any quality of life right now, and yet your standard of living is the best it's ever been. You know, and your family, your spouse, and you, your partner, and you. I mean, you know, it's like your standard of living has just raised through the years, and yet you're going, gosh, we're not enjoying any of it. And you don't even get along half the time. You're arguing about money, and you know, it's yet you have more stuff than you've ever had. And so, why is that? Well, it's because your standard of living and your quality of life are two entirely different things. And, you know, when it comes to standard of living, the way you raise that is typically through spending and debt. And the way you raise your quality of life is through something not as fun, it's discipline. And so, you know, the debt part seems a lot more fun, at least initially. And so this is kind of where we're going to go this weekend. So, man, it got like eerily quiet all of a sudden. Like, was that intentional or were we just all like, oh, okay, what are we going to do? Here's what I want you to think about. All right, here's what I want you to think about. If there's a God, and I believe there is, and I know not all of us are on that same page. You might be here trying to figure that out. If there's a God, and this God cares about you, and this God knows you, and he knows you by name, and he cares about the things that are going on in your life, all of which I believe he does. I experience that. So if there is a God like this, just logically thinking, what do you think he's more concerned with, your standard of living or your quality of life? Or to kind of ask it a different way, you know, perhaps if you're married, would you rather have like a fantastic, incredible marriage, or would you rather have like really cool cars and a horrible marriage? Where like, you know, you're like, oh, I got cool cars, but every time you come home and the garage raises, you know, she's like, oh crap, he's home. And like, she's like, that's my ticket to leave. And you guys just pass. And yeah, horrible marriage, we got like cool stuff. And, you know, some of us, we have that going on. And others of us, you know, it's like you're making more money than you've ever made in your life, and yet there's not a contentment, there's no peace. And it's really because we fell for a lie. And I'm not blaming the advertising executives or marketing, you know, people. I mean, again, it's your fault. It's my fault. I mean, we did this. We believed something that intuitively, when we look at this on the screen right here, we're like, yeah, that is so true. Our standard of living is entirely different than our quality of life. And so we're going to talk about this weekend. Now, if you're a religious person, I'll get to you in a second. If you're not a religious person and you're just like, I'm not sure, I'm trying to check out Jesus, first, we're glad you're here. Crosspoint's created for you. I mean, we really created this place for you to kind of come explore, figure out who Jesus is, see if he's worth like following. And if you are a Christian, then like this is kind of an imperative. Like this is really, really important. And so this is the kind of thing that like you want to get this right. And I know I want you to get this right. And God wants you to get this right. And so because, you know, when you follow Jesus in this, And again, whether you're religious or not, I mean, if you just apply this, like you're going to feel a sense of like, wow, there's just like a peace, and I feel like I can breathe. Now, 3 things that I know about you. Number 1, you are living on a percentage of your income, right? I mean, that's not a surprise to any of us. I don't see anybody writing that down because you're like, yeah, that's not new news. I mean, we all know that. We all know we're all living on a percentage of our income. What we probably don't know is what percentage that is, unless it's like 100% or 110% of it. You're like, oh, I feel that. I know that my month runs out before, or my money runs out before my month does. And so, but most of us, we don't know exactly what the percentage of our income we're living on. And then the second thing I know about you is we all probably are like, if I just had a little bit more, then I'd be fine, right? I mean, how many times have you said that? How many times have you gone, oh my gosh, it's so tight, it's so tight, it's so tight. If I just had a little bit more, I would be fine. And listen, we have all felt that, myself included. And why is that? Well, it's partly because we probably haven't pre-decided what percentage of our income we're going to live on, and so our income just drives our spending. And then here's the third one, and don't laugh at yourself on this. You might embarrass yourself or, like nudge the person next to you. But the third one is, listen, you felt the same way when you made less, right? I mean, when you made less, if 10 years ago we would have had a conversation and I said, hey, listen, I know exactly what you're going to make in 10 years and here's what it is. And guess what? You're going to still feel financial pressure when you make that much more than you're making right now. You would have laughed out loud. You would be like, Curt, that is crazy. If I made that much more, I would not feel pressure at all. And see, this is a concept I'm constantly trying to get my kids to understand because 3 of them are earning money now. They have earning potential and they have a bank account. And I'm just like, kids, like, the importance of not spending everything that comes in, like save some, give some, like it creates room. And I hear these phrases from them that I used to, kind of believe as well. They're like, well, Dad, but if I had a little bit more, it'd be easier. I'm like, but understand, like when you're making like $100 a week or month right now, when you save part of that, like 10%, 20 of that, give 10% of that, it's going to be different. Like when you're making, $10,000 a month and you're like, oh my gosh, it's not easier. You actually have to like gradually like grow into it. And so they just say, well, if I had more, I'd save more. And it's funny because I'll hear sometimes 40, 50, 60-year-olds say the same thing. Man, if I just had 10 grand more, if I had 15 grand more, if I wasn't hourly and could get a salary job, or if I could get a job with benefits, then I would be good. And again, this is the same thing you said 10 years ago, and yet you're making that, and yet there's no like peace. See, this is what's called white space free living right here. Right? And it'll never change. It doesn't matter how much you make. Unless you make a change, there will always be that angst. Now, I know some of us are visual learners, all right? So I'm going to give you some like charts and graphs because these sometimes are helpful. So we got a chart right here. Right here, you see your money. The money's on the left and your time is on the bottom, all right? So just make sure we're all tracking, go real slow. Money's on the left. Time is, across the bottom. Now, hopefully over your lifetime, this is what your income does, all right? It kind of goes up and to the right, and it's not like just a straight line. It's, it goes up and down. It's kind of gradual, and sometimes we go back and then up. And I know some of you are like, oh my gosh, Curt, it's so steep. That'll never happen for me. Listen, it's all contextual. This might not be thousands. It might be hundreds of dollars for you, incrementally. But hopefully over time it increases. And I know some of us are like, yeah, well, I'm like flatlined. Like you just feel stuck. And I get that that's probably frustrating if that's where you are. But understand probably long term you're going to see some up and to the right. And so now in an ideal world, here's what our spending would look like. All right, right here. It would kind of mirror, but it would increasingly create what's called white space, right? Where you can breathe because you have a little gap. Now here's something else I know about you. I think every single one of you want this. I know I want this. This is a transgenerational, transcultural. It doesn't matter, whether you're, religious, not religious, Christian, Baptist, Jewish, Muslim, I don't know what you believe. Doesn't matter if you have kids, don't have kids, you're married, single, kids are back and you wish they'd move out. It doesn't matter. I think all of us would say, yes, I want this. And this is a good thing to shoot for right here. And here's why, because when you have that space between, my income and my spending, we get along better in our home. I mean, we have that space. We sleep better. We drive slower. Like, I can pray without, like, constantly being distracted by, oh, my gosh, I got to take care of this, and God, what if this doesn't come through? And I can be more generous with my time. I can be more generous with my, with my finances and my giving. And so here's kind of the simple takeaway. I mean, we're like 10 minutes in. We could just end right here. And some of you are like, all right, we're going home early. We're not, but here's the takeaway. All right, you should do whatever you can, legally, by the way. I tell my kids once particularly, all the time, legally, you should do whatever you can to create this kind of space. Because guess what? Life is so much better when we've got a little space right there. Now, here's where most Americans live right here. All right, most Americans, it's just like, that's how it works right there. I mean, our income drives our spending. So it doesn't matter if you're making $50,000 a year, $75,000 a year, if you're making $300,000, $400,000 a year, you spend it. It all gets spent, right? And so here's the thing, and I know this sounds kind of crazy, but if you're making, $50,000, $75,000, I don't know, somewhere in those ranges, you're not going to believe what I'm about to tell you. If this is kind of the way you approach, finances, and you go, yeah, I mean, if let my income drive my spending, you could get a raise and make $250,000 this year, and you would still feel angst right here. You would still feel financial pressure. Because see, when you live your life this way, you become a slave to your finances, to money. It kind of owns you. Meaning, when you purchase and borrow your way, into this formula right here, it's almost like a slavery. Now, this is amazing. Consequently, banks, which I love banks, by the way, love bankers, got friends that are bankers, credit card companies, love them too. I mean, I love going up and tapping the plastic and, I'm on my way. I don't have to go inside. It's cool. I got friends at, Fifth Third and Huntington. And I love them. So if you're in that industry, awesome. But let me tell you something about the people who work for these companies. All right, listen, they do not want to be your owners and your masters. They don't. All right, that's not why they went into business. You know why they went into business in banking, in finance? Because they want to help you be happy. They want to help your life be easier. All right, they don't want to own you. But see, when we live like this, and sometimes our spending outpaces our income, all of a sudden, they become your masters, and all of a sudden, like, you hate them. Like, you're getting letters in the mail, and you're like, oh, I hate these people. And they're calling you, and you're like, oh, I hate them. You don't even know who them is, right? Like, you just hate them, and then, and they don't really know you. I mean, for the most part, you're a number. And you hate them, but you're like, I don't even know who them is. And you're like, no, I got a relationship with my banker, my daughter over here. She loves her banker. She knows him by first name. She always calls him. He had a great experience with him, Alan Dyer. So, I mean, if Alan's listening out there, man, you made a profound impact on my daughter, just so you know. But, you walk into your banker, even if you know his name, and you're going to say, hey, my name's so-and-so, and what are they going to say to you? What's your account number, right? Because at the end of the day, you are still an account number. All right, and so all of a sudden we realize, okay, yeah, I become a slave to this. And so all of a sudden now everything economic is my master, right? I mean, I can't buy this, I can't do that, I can't go there. I mean, it's like, nope, because all of a sudden I've got all these things that are driving my life. And you know who's running your life? It's your finances, it's your mortgage, it's your car, leases and, loans and all these things. And you're like, I don't even know this group of people that I've become kind of indebted to and a slave to, but you feel it. You feel the pressure. I just don't know how I'm going to make it to the end of the month because we become a slave financially. And then another thing that happens is we begin to become a slave emotionally, right? Because all we do is like worry and fret about money. Oh my gosh, how's it going to happen? I'm like, worry. And I get it. I'm not unlike you. I have seasons like this. And then here's the kind of thing we don't think about all that much. But, the more money you make, the more worry there is. I mean, because, it's hard to replace a big income. I mean, it sucks to have to replace any income, right? Like, if you have to replace a small income, it's hard and it's horrible. And if you have to replace a medium income, that kind of sucks too. But man, I tell you what, if you have big income, I mean, there's not, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 jobs just rolling around the corner every time you turn around. I mean, and so what ends up happening is you become a relational slave because this ends up driving your whole life because this is all you can think about and talk about with the people in your home. You're, what are we going to do? Everything revolves around this. It's horrible. And so this whole idea of, being a slave to financial things, this might be somewhat new to you, but, to Jesus 2,000 years ago, it wasn't new to him. He actually predicted this. In fact, he tells this parable, which are these made-up stories to kind of illustrate a point. He tells a parable about it, and he gives us these principles in this parable, and this is one of my favorite parables we're going to look at. I have a lot of favorite parables, and part of why I have a lot of favorites is because, like, the other ones, I don't understand them. People are like, hey, what's that mean? I'm like, I have no idea. So I really like the ones that I understand, and this is one I understand, and he basically tells this fascinating financial parable about a money manager and how this guy gets fired, but he decides to leverage his opportunities so that when he gets fired, he actually has a job. I mean, it's just amazing grit and, agency, and, it's in Luke chapter 16. And so we're going to look at this. It's a parable about money, and Jesus draws this amazing conclusion. Now, I always like to say Jesus was the smartest person in the room always. I mean, if Jesus says something, I'm like, okay, we need to pay attention to that. All right, and so take a look at what Jesus says right here. This is amazing. He says, no one can serve two masters. Nobody can serve two masters. Now, some of you have been in situations where you've had to serve two masters. You've had two vying, tensions in your life. I mean, perhaps, you got hired by somebody at corporate, but you work offsite at another location, and you have a boss there, and they kind of like say, hey, here's what you're doing, but corporate then tells you what to do, and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know who I'm supposed to follow. Jesus, like, I get that. Nobody can serve two masters. It's horrible. There's a tension there. Or perhaps, you grew up in a home where dad said one thing and mom said something else, or maybe there was divorce, in your home, and so you live with mom for part of the week. She's like, here's how we're doing it, and the dad's like, nope, we're not doing that, screw that, we're doing it this way. And so you were caught in the tension of, two masters. I mean, Jesus is like, yeah, it's so hard because you're in constant tension. And so Jesus says, no one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one, I love being with my dad, but man, and my mom, I just don't, they're always telling me different things. Either you're going to hate the one and love the other. All right, I mean, she's the one that hired me, even though he's the one that's kind of my boss, but I kind of, she gives me directives, or, love my mom, hate my dad, love my dad, hate my mom. You're either going to hate the one and love the other, or you're going to be devoted to the one, and get this, you're going to despise the other. I mean, this right here is brilliant, what Jesus is saying. He's like, if you're ever in the situation where you're like in this tug of war and you're trying to be pulled in both directions, and you have these vying, kind of tensions on your life, and you tend to kind of either lean into one thing and away from the other, and then you feel guilty because you're like, yeah, but she's the one that hired me, but I'm leaning this way, or that's my mom, or that's my dad, and he's like, it's horrible. And see, when Jesus teaches this, everybody's standing back going, oh my gosh, we've all been there. And so he tells this parable. And he talks about this money manager and this money lender and this rich guy who fires him, but then at the end of the day, he's like, actually, you're doing really good work. And everybody's like, what? Like, everybody's really confused. And then he almost like immediately changes the topic, Jesus does. I mean, he's talking about, you can't serve two masters. You're going to love one and hate the other. You're going to, you're going to be devoted to one. You're going to despise the other. And then Jesus just like drops this so relevant phrase right here, 2,000 years ago, that still like lands with us today. He says, you cannot serve both God and money. I think everybody's like scratching their head like, whoa, wait a second. Are you sure those are the competing factions right there? Are you sure it's God and money? I mean, isn't it God and the devil, or God and this intelligent darkness, this being of evil in the world? And she's like, no. It's God and money. Do you know why he put it this way? He said it's God and money. Lunch Money Lewis knew why. Take a look. Well, everybody like Lunch Money Lewis? You guys like Lunch Money? Like, I get that. I got bills, man. I got mouths I got to feed. I got stuff, we all get that. And it's just, it's like, yes, that's just why right here. And then Jesus on the other side, this other tension right there. We just need like a moment, right? To like lift everybody's spirit, have a little bit of fun in church. But then you have Jesus on the other side, and he's going, okay, here's how I want you to live your life, and here's how I want you to be generous, and here's how I want you to, build into others and love your family. And he's like, it's not going to be unusual if you find yourself caught in these two tensions, because you're going to be torn between your devotion to, oh my gosh, I want to follow what Jesus is inviting me to and follow God, and at the same time, I have this devotion to my stuff, and at the end of the day, you're going to have to decide, okay, which way am I going to lean? And in one way creates a lot of angst, ongoing pressure, internal, how's this going to go? And the other one's like, there's like a internal peace. And this is so important, especially if you're somebody who's a follower of Jesus, because see, if money has become a master, meaning you've traded or borrowed or spent your way into this kind of slavery. I mean, Jesus talks about this, and he's like, oh my gosh, I want you to be generous. And you're like, yeah, but like American Express, like they're not going to let me do that. I mean, I got to take care of that. Or, my mortgage, I got to take care of that. And you find yourself like just in this tension, financially enslaved. And so what Jesus says, hey, I want you to do this. You end up going, okay, Jesus, I don't think I can follow you into that. And then there's this one. We looked at this one, a couple weeks ago in week number 1, where Jesus just says this like really insensitive like thing. He's like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about what you're going to eat or drink or what you're going to wear. We're going to live. I know you want to eat and sleep indoors. Don't worry about it. Like, Jesus, do you have any idea what my financial life looks like? I mean, all I do is worry, worry, worry. I mean, I want to follow you, Jesus. I want to do, follow you into this kind of, but like I've made a mess of it. And then on top of that, my boss, made things worse. And then, the pandemic and the economy and the stock market. I mean, all these things. And yeah, it's easy to blame everybody else. At the end of the day, I guess I didn't really do my part. I didn't save. I didn't create the buffer. I just haven't created the space to be generous. I've just done what everybody else around me was doing. I paid attention to that. And now I'm in this tension. And yeah, I love coming in here and singing the songs. And, I love, coming and hearing the messages, most of the time at least. And, I love like that my family can come here. And I just love all this. But then when I walk out, I just can't like necessarily apply or do the things that I just can't do it. And listen, I just want to be really clear. This is not at all about shame and guilt. If you're feeling any like, I feel a little bad right now, listen, that is not from our Heavenly Father. All right, what this is about is having agency, seeing that you can your Heavenly Father actually wants something different for you. And see, if all this is keeping you from following Jesus, like financially, into some of these places where you have where he can be your master and your leader. This is like a big deal. Because like he can't be your leader financially, because if you can't like say, yeah, okay, Jesus, I'm going to follow you into what you ask me to do, but I don't have any extra, I don't have any white space. If you can't follow Jesus emotionally because, he says, hey, don't worry. And you're like, that's all I do is worry, 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 worry. So I don't experience any of the good things you had intended for me. And like relationally, the whole New Testament, if you just look through the New Testament, it's all about one another. It's all about one another this, one another that, love one another, serve one another, bear one another's burdens, forgive one another. There's like 13 one another's. This is what the whole like post-Jesus, this is what it means to live out and reflect the love of Jesus. Did you realize when you have no financial white space and have no white space in your calendar, you can't really do any one anothering. There's not the ability, because pretty much your life is about, oh my gosh, I got to take care of me. It's so focused right here that I can't even pay attention to right there. So what do you do? Like, what do we do in that moment? Well, I want to give you a couple quick hitters, a couple of things to say, hey, here's some things to jumpstart this. All right, and I know for some of us, we're like, I don't know if I want any like steps. All right, let me just tell you, for the most part, the first step I'm going to give you is the one that most of us need to do. All right, most of you could leave after the first one. You'd be like, I'm out of here. All right, that's all I need, and that'd be cool. Turn off the stream, because I think the first one really for most of us is all we need. I'm going to give you 5, but you're smart enough to figure this out. All right, so you might think these are kind of lame, but I'm going to give them to you anyway. All right, so here it is. You guys ready? First one. This one's pretty complicated. You got to decide. You got to decide. You just got to decide, okay, am I going to decide to do this? And it's kind of like working out. When you decide if you're going to work out or not, it's not like you're like, I don't know how to do it. Never seen it before. Like, you know how to do it. Like, you've seen it. It's just you got to come to the place of decide, okay, am I actually going to do it? All right, the reason that perhaps I don't exercise is I just haven't decided to do it. And so, again, dad is about, increasing higher standard of living. Discipline, which isn't nearly as fun, is about, at the end, a better quality of life. All right? And so, step 1, listen, you guys are sharp. And I know some of you are like, well, Curt, how do I do that, though? I'm convinced, you guys are smart enough that if you figure the what out, okay, this is what I'm going to do, I'm pretty sure the how is going to follow. You can figure that out. You get to the point where you're so disgusted and you're so mad and frustrated, you're like, I'm not doing this anymore. And I'm not going to blame, the government. I'm not going to blame the president. I'm not going to blame the previous president. I'm not going to blame my boss. At the end of the day, I'm responsible for my decisions. And yeah, nobody's perfect. I mean, there's grace in there, but at the end of the day, I've got to decide, okay, am I going to do something to begin to create a little white space, right, between my income and my spending? All right, so that's really, for most of us, that's probably all we need to do. Just decide, okay, am I going to do this? Now, if you want, a couple more, I'll give you, the second one. Second one is this: create a white space goal. Create a white space goal. And here's what I mean by that. We're going to go back to our chart. All right, just decide, okay, what goes between the two lines right here? All right, and I'm asking you to write down a number. I mean, not for me, but for you. Like, what's the number? Is it 2%? Do I want to buffer a 5 or 10% or 20? I mean, talk to your spouse or significant other, or just decide. I mean, but you got to figure this out. I mean, you can't shoot for something if you don't even know what the goal is. All right, so what's your white space goal? What's your number between the two? And then number 3, you have to spy on your money. And I recommend doing this for 2 months. All right, now, the point of this is you've got to know where your money's going, right? You can't make changes if you don't even know where your money's going. And so, and listen, Julie and I, we get sideways on this at times. We're not like so disciplined that we're like always on it. I mean, we get it kind of straightened out, and then we, seasons change, and, so you got to, continue to kind of check in and spy on this, and you just pay attention to where every penny goes for 2 months. All right, use a ledger sheet, an app, a paper pencil, whatever works for you, and you might be surprised at what you see. I mean, we did this recently, about a month and a half ago, mid-December, and all of a sudden there was something that jumped out. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're spending hundreds of dollars on this one area, more than we even thought at all we were spending. And it's not like we needed to be, it's just convenience. And we're like, gosh, if we wouldn't have recorded that and spied on our money, we would have never seen that, right? And so again, if you're feeling tension, this is not uncommon. You can get to a good place and say, okay, things are in balance. I got some white space, but then you hit different seasons where, things with your kids change, or, kids go to college, or you hit a pandemic or inflation. All these things affect this, right? And so this isn't about, oh my gosh, geez, I'm a horrible person. No, it's okay, let me do some observation. Let me spy a bit on my money. Because when I spy on it, I pay attention to where it's going, I can then adapt. And so again, if you're not a religious person, listen, like this works. I'm just telling you, this is like a motivational talk for you. This is like, you can take this to the bank, all right? Even if you don't believe Jesus is a historical figure, you can take that to the bank right there and it'll work. But if you are a Christian, if you are a Jesus follower, let me tell you, this is huge right here, right? Because as followers of Jesus, don't we believe, aren't we coming to see that everything that we have has come from our Heavenly Father? Like, we don't really own it. I mean, that every good thing has come into our lives and really is our Heavenly Father's, and we kind of open-handedly receive it and we manage it, but when we have an open hand, we can receive more, but sometimes it gets taken away, and but at the end of the day, it's not ours. And if you're not sure about this, go check out Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. I mean, the Gospels, they talk over and over and over and over and over and over and over again about how, everything we have really is for the benefit for God to use for others. And we have to come to see that, Jesus isn't looking for something from us. He wants something for us. He actually wants that. He wants you to have that peace at the end of the day. But see, if you don't know what your number is or how to create the gap, you're not going to feel that. So you got to spy on your money for at least 2 months. And you might say, well, is there something magic about 2 months? No, there's not at all. I just gave you 2 months. I mean, I'd recommend 4 or 5 months. I just didn't think you'd buy that. I thought you'd be like, yeah, definitely not. And so 2 months, how about 2? And really what I'm hoping for is 1. Just do it for 1, but let's say 2, because that way if you only do half of it, then you got to read on where your monthly expenses are going. And then number 4, you cut expenses. Cut your spending, all right? You begin to see things. And I know this is so not fun right here. I know this is the worst part, right? But here's a little phrase to help you. I want is better than I owe, right? Oh my gosh, I want that brand new car. And even though my car right now, it's perfectly fine, but I want the new one. But I want that is actually better than I owe on that new car, right? Or I want the bigger, new improved house with the counters. I want all that, but I want that is a lot better than I now have to owe on that. And so, again, I know these are lame, right? But hopefully they're jogging ideas for you. And then here's the last one. Develop a debt retirement plan. Develop a debt retirement plan. This is so simple, 3 steps, all right, to developing a debt retirement plan. I'm not a financial planner, just like I'm not a therapist or counselor. You don't want me to be your counselor. You don't want me to be your financial planner, trust me. But what I do really well is connect people to resources that do make a difference. And this one will make an enormous difference. So here's how you do this, 3 steps. Number 1, Go to the bookstore, go to Amazon, and buy this book by Dave Ramsey, Financial Peace Revisited. All right, and just do it. Just read it and do it. And that will, boy, it'll change everything. And I know some of you are going, Curt, like you don't understand. I don't have $20 for a book like that. All right, so here's your step. Step number 2, go to the bookstore, find a nice chair, grab Dave Ramsey's book, Financial Peace Revisited, off the shelf, sit down in that chair and read chapter 8. It starts on page 67. All right, just read it. Take you like less than an hour. All right, and it'll really, give you some tools. And I know, again, some of you are like, oh, Curt, I don't have an hour to sit in a bookstore. What do you think I made of time? All right, well, I got a plan for you. This is the third option. All right, go to the bookstore. All right, take your smartphone that you can't afford, pull out the camera, grab that Dave Ramsey book, Financial Peace Revisited, pull it off the shelf, sit down, take a picture of pages 90 and 91. This is the Debt Snowball program. All right, just take a picture of it. Be very careful. Put the book back in the shelf. Don't bend the pages. All right, just put it back, go home, open up your camera app, look at those 2 pages, read them, and just do it. Just do it. It will begin to change things. And then after you get out of that debt, then you can come back and buy Dave's book, right? And you can say, hey, thanks, Dave. You made a big difference in my life. All right, so that's it right there. That's what you do right there. Now, seriously, at the end of the day, most of us just need number 1. We need to decide. Because, see, we have to decide, okay, do I want that? Because, see, this is what Jesus wants for you. And if you're not a Jesus follower, man, this is just good advice. But if you are a Jesus follower, this is a directive. This is the life he wants to invite you to continue to follow him in. Which means that we have to follow him. And understand, when we follow Jesus, I mean, Jesus talked about money pretty frequently. I mean, he talked about money more than heaven, believe it or not. More times in the New Testament, Jesus talks about money than he does heaven. You know why? Because he understood something. He understood that the chief competitor for your heart is not Satan, Lucifer, the intelligent darkness, the devil. No, the chief competitor for your and my heart is our stuff. It's our stuff. And see, 2,000 years ago, Jesus knew that. And he's kind of like, I didn't come to die on the cross just so you could get to heaven one day. It's not just for that. I want you to live like an amazing life now. I want to take you somewhere, but in order for me to do that, you've got to let me lead you. And in order for me to lead you, you got to follow me. And to follow me, you got to be willing to say, okay, I'm going to trust you. And so that's kind of the question, when it comes again to finance. It's amazing how it all comes back to this. Jesus has an amazing way, but it's just that he's like, you got to follow me in it. And through the downs, the ups, the rocky seasons, he's like, are you willing to just follow? Are you willing to keep your eyes on me? Are you willing to, I know sometimes you get distracted, things going on around you. Are you willing to keep your eyes on me? Don't take your eyes off me, especially in those moments. And when you do, you're going to find a peace. You're going to find that you don't have to worry because you have a Heavenly Father who knows you by name and cares, and he knows what you need, and he can provide it. And again, when you do this, you're going to find, oh my gosh, life is so much better. And I'm so much better at life. And so the invitation is, will you follow me in this? Let's go ahead and stand. I want to pray for us as we think about what this means and how we do this week. Heavenly Father, thank you. Thank you for caring enough to give us this amazing parable, this made-up story that Jesus told to help us understand and grasp. And amazing to us that 2,000 years ago, you understood the tensions we would even be in yet today, and they're real. We feel it. We know it. We've been there. And Father, I just pray that, I pray that you will help us to know what to do with what we've heard. We're smart people. You gave us minds to use. And so, help us to decide, okay, here's what I need to do. And give us wisdom. I pray that as we take that step, that your Spirit would get involved, because it's like an activator. When we step your way, it's like, you're like, ooh, okay, there's somebody who's wanting to go to some new places, and you begin to get more involved. And your Spirit, the Holy Spirit, actually begins to counsel and direct and guide. I just pray that would happen as we take the steps to follow you. And as we do, and things will get rocky at times, and we won't understand, and that's just life. And yet in those moments, God, I think it's that you're actually teaching us to trust and trust more. And so help us to just keep our eyes on you, because we know when we do, at the end of the day, there's a peace that comes, and we want that. And so I pray, Father, that we would be able to step in and begin to experience that in new ways this week.
By the sound of his voice, and seas that are shaken and stirred can be calmed and broken from my regard. Through it all, my eyes are on you. Through it all, it is well. Through it all, my eyes are on you, and it is well with me. Far be it from me to not believe, even when my eyes can't see, and this mountain that's in front of me will be thrown into the midst of the sea. Through it all, my eyes are on you, and through it all, it is well. Through it all, my eyes are on you, and it is well. It is well. So let go my soul and trust in him. The ways and wind still know his name. So let go my soul and trust in him. The ways and wind still know his name. So let go
So excited to have you join us today. And that's our prayer for you today, that you would come to know and experience the peace and confidence that comes as you follow this heavenly leader, not only in your life, but also in your financial life. So be encouraged. Now, if you'd like someone to pray with you today, simply text the keyword "need prayer" to 317-834-7373, and a member of our prayer team will be in touch with you. And if you like what you experienced today and you'd like to donate, you can do so on the online Joy Box by going to the Give button at the top of the screen and making a donation. And know that when you make a donation, it fuels the things like this online experience that brings us hope and changing lives all around our city, state, and country, and even the world. How cool is that? So thank you, and know that you're a part of helping make this happen each and every week. Have a fantastic week, and we hope to see you next time for part 4 of Whitespace.